Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. Amma ba'du fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qad aflaha man tazakka wa dhakara isma rabbih fasalla. Bal tu'thiruna al-hayata ad-dunya wal akhiratu khayrun wa abqa. Inna hadha la fi as-suhufil ula, suhufi Ibrahim wa Musa. Sadaqallahu al-azim. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. Washing clothes has been a profession for thousands of years. Different cleaning agents were used through the centuries in different parts of the world, and it continues to be a profession. The laundrette, the dry cleaner. Similarly, various natural substances have been used by people for cleaning the body for centuries. There are some plants which are used, their juices are used as shampoo, and there's any number of oils which are used for skincare, and this has been the case for thousands of years too. But this goes beyond the human body. I mean, we can talk about oral hygiene and the different natural methods used by different communities in the world for cleaning teeth today and historically, and what people do today. The sunnah of the miswak of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, another cleaning agent. And then you have the internal detox. If someone is blocked up, they might want to take a laxative temporarily or for a prolonged amount of time, and they might go on a detox diet, which gives the opportunity to the body to rid itself of toxins, of built up unwanted substances which have gathered in the body because of having a poor diet and an unhealthy lifestyle. And then there are other types of cleaning. There is other types of cleaning which goes on. So for example, ridding the kidneys of kidney stones, the gallbladder of stones, and similarly blockage in the heart arteries, bypass operations, and the removal of arterial plaque so that the blood flow can become more efficient into the heart and out of it. And then there's mental hygiene, if you like, a detox of the mind. People meditate to rid themselves of different types of disturbing thoughts, perhaps patterns of thought. So this is another level. And this applies in the world generally as well. The spring clean of the house, the tidying up of the garden, the ridding of weeds, the car wash, the road cleaning systems for cleaning underground drains and the drains of your house. And we can look at any number of examples, removing pollution from the air, from the water systems of the world, from the land. So the whole concept of cleansing applies at so many different levels. And if we move from the physical world towards the abstract world, we can talk of the mental detox, where you remove the clutter, the chatter from the mind, the thoughts which trouble you. Many people believe that they've been possessed because they have whisperings in their mind and heart. And so when you have a pattern of thought, it can become very troubling. But if we keep with this theme of cleansing, we learn from the hadith that there is a cleansing agent for everything. And the Prophet ﷺ informs us of the cleansing agent of the heart. But before we go there, before we learn the wisdom from the hadith, there's another side to this. We've talked about arterial plaque, we've talked about blockage in the arteries, and bypass operations. But at a spiritual level, the Quran describes the soiling of the heart in other words. The Quran says, كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Nay, in fact, their hearts have become rusted because of their actions, because of what they earned. The actions are described as their earning. It's a transaction we make when we make a decision to do one thing or other, good or bad. Rain in Arabic, Ra, Ya, Nun, rain is rust. Rana is a verb. Their hearts have become rusted. Rust has set upon their hearts because of their actions. So, at a spiritual level too, there is the soiling of the heart. There is the marking of the heart. We learn that whenever a person commits a sin, a black mark appears on the heart, until such a time that the heart becomes covered with this blackness. So how can it be removed? How can this rust setting on the heart be removed? The cleaning agent mentioned in the hadith is the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this is fascinating, because while it is the case that the Almighty sustains and maintains and keeps in existence and keeps alive the creation, at a physical level, when our hearts turn away from the Almighty, from Allah and His remembrance, from Iman in Him, belief in Him, faith in Him, when the hearts turn away, they wither and die. When this remembrance disappears from the heart, it withers and dies at a spiritual level. And when we learn from the Quran, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ, be aware that it is only with the remembrance of Allah that hearts find contentment, stillness, calmness. Itmi'nan is described as sukoon. Itma'anna sakana, to become still and calm. The calmness of the heart, the turmoil of the heart, the storm which rises and falls in the heart, the tempestuous storm of the heart, the waves which rise and crash of emotion, the disturbance that the heart experiences can be quietened and stilled and calmed through the remembrance of Allah and through the remembrance of Allah alone. So the Quran is telling us that there's a need of the heart which cannot be fulfilled ever, cannot be satiated, an appetite that cannot be satisfied, a thirst that cannot be quenched with anything material. So you can chase and race after racing cars and nice villas and luxury yachts and physical material possessions and name and fame and friends and society, all of these things. There will come a time when you'll have tasted everything, but it won't be enough, and you'll be looking for something different. I remember years ago reading a magazine article, and it was about a club which had been established for those millionaires that come into wealth and they were unhappy. And so they were being weaned off their wealth by making them live a simple lifestyle so that they could discover the simple pleasures of life outside of glamour, colour, glitter, expense, name and fame. So they were being taught how to use simple furniture and coached into, as a therapy, into drinking from paper cups, plastic cups. Now, there are other dimensions to this, of course. This is going back 20 years ago or more when I read this article. It's just come to my mind, sharing it with you. These days there'd be other dimensions. We talk about plastic cups and we talk about the environment. But the general point here is a simpler lifestyle, to be weaned off. Imagine joining a club, a society, because you've had enough of material things. Stuff. That's what it is. Stuff. You know, when you look at a skyscraper looking very glamorous, looking very tall, looking very majestic, what is it? It's a heap of rubble. When it falls, that's what it becomes. When you see the demolition happening and the big crane comes in and it swings that leaden ball and it smashes into the structure and it comes down like a pack of cards, it becomes a heap of rubble. In the unfortunate circumstances that you see an earthquake, the after effects of it, what do you see? You see a heap of rubble. So that's what it is. And what are we? We too become a heap of earth when we decompose. Minha khalaqnakum wa fiha nu'idukum wa minha nukhrijukum taratan ukhra. The Quran says that we have created you, Allah Ta'ala says, from this earth, and will return you to it, and you rise from it another time, a second time. So what are we? So what gives us value then? What gives us value? Is it just our physical form and physique that gives us value? If that were the case, then there'd be no difference between the tyrant and the gentleman or gentlewoman, for that matter, that decent human being, full of character, full of good qualities, full of decency on the one hand, and that tyrant, that oppressor on the other. There is a pain for everybody around him. So the two situations, how are they different if that's all we stand for? Surely there's something deeper. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَى صُوَرِكُمْ وَأَمْوَالِكُمْ وَلَكِنْ يَنْظُرُ إِلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ وَأَعْمَالِكُمْ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Allah Ta'ala does not look at your physical forms and your possessions, but He looks at your hearts and your actions. It's about your sincerity and your intentions. It's about the quality of what's inside you, the values that you stand for, the beliefs that you hold, and the actions that are a consequence and a fruit of those beliefs and values, that ethic, that ethos. And so, something more. So hearts cannot be satisfied with this. It's a philosophical point that the heart is a place, a receptacle. It's a spiritual point as well. The heart is a place which doesn't have any limitations. After all, as we talk now and discuss right now, you can think of, and you can think with me, of a universe and another one and a bigger one. We can go on a journey in our minds, and it is in our minds, because when we talk about the bigger, greater celestial phenomena, we can't observe it with our eyes. We have to think about it. Pictures aren't enough. Cameras can't photograph everything. The mapping of the skies, it has its limitations. There comes a level where the picture has to be in your mind. When you talk about the deep sea, you talk about, okay, let's talk about into the DNA of of the cells of your body. If we're going to the cellular structure of your body, we can draw, look at drawings, but there comes a level where it's about the picture in your mind. When you can comprehend how your body is made up of billions of individual, millions and billions of individual cells, and how do you picture this in your mind? But you can picture it, you can think about it, you can comprehend it at some level. We're going to the heavens. What's the time?
1:22.
We're going to the heavens, we're going to the skies, we go above the clouds, we're going to the stratosphere and beyond. We can think. So our hearts have space, our minds have space inside them, so that we can comprehend the abstract. And how does this relate? Well, that space can't be filled with anything except with the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's what will give it life. And this is the cleaning agent mentioned in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's the dhikr of Allah, and it's what gives us calmness and sukoon. It helps us to make sense of things. In the Quran, Allah Ta'ala talks of how the Quran's revelation would not have been withstood by a mountain had it been revealed upon a mountain. The Quran says, لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل, had we revealed this Quran upon a mountain, لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله, you would have seen the mountain humbled and broken up into pieces because of the fear of Allah. Now this analogy in the Quran, it's a very interesting one, because in many places in the Quran we learn that the mountains have been placed on the earth to stabilize it. They are actually weights which balance the earth. Very interesting. It might be said, you know, you have your tires on a car, you have to have them balanced, and a weight is added to the rim, so when it spins on the motorway it doesn't waver, it's steady on. If you took the weight away, a few grams, it would start wobbling, it start wavering, start vibrating. So it's to steady the spinning disc of the wheel of your front and back wheel of your car, a weight is added to the rim. Allah Azza wa Jal, in His wisdom, He has placed mountains, awtad, to stabilize, and tamida bikum, to stabilize the earth, steady it, so that its parts they do not begin to move up and down, to calm the tremors of the earth. So mountains are the most solid of the physical structures on this planet, the greatest. And there's a whole mapping now of the underground mountains which we don't see, the valleys and mountains underground, under the water, in the sea, on the seabed. Some of them rise above. These islands that we sit on, what are they? Essentially, it's a landmass which rises above the surface area of the sea. So when you are at sea and you suffer seasickness because the ship is being tossed and turned by the rising and falling ocean waters, how do you calm your stomach? Your mind is confused which way is the right way up. So you begin to throw up and feel nausea, seasickness. So how do you calm the nerves? What do? Well, you look at, if there is one, you look at the horizon. And if you can see any landmass, you look at the land. And if you can see a mountain on the horizon, you focus on the mountain. The steadiness of the horizon and the steadiness of the landmass, as opposed to the movement of the sea waters, the steadiness of the mountain peaks, as you focus on them, will give your mind calm. So even the mental connection with something which is stable will allow your mind and body to feel reconciled with the movement under your feet. And the dizziness may go away. And the Quran is saying that if the Quran had been revealed upon a mountain, the mountain would break up. So the Quran is something which is more powerful, more majestic, more profound than any physical structure. It's the word of the Almighty. And in one ayat of the Quran, in one verse, Allah Ta'ala says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold fast to the rope of Allah and don't be disunited amongst yourselves. What is the rope of Allah? One explanation of the ayat is the rope of Allah is the Quran, it's the revelation which connects us to the heavens. Hold on to this rope and you will gain stability. And interestingly, if I go back to the dhikr of Allah and the verse I recited, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ, know that with the remembrance of Allah do hearts find contentment. The word is dhikrullah. And one of the tafsirs of dhikr here is the Quran itself. So this is explained to be any remembrance of Allah, or specifically the Quran, because one of the names of the Quran is dhikr. It's the dhikr of Allah. The Quran is the dhikr of Allah. And so what do we learn from this? We learn that the contentment and the calmness and the stillness and the peace and the tranquility and the satisfaction and the satiation of the appetite of the heart for fulfillment will not be in mountains of gold. It will not be in palaces and yachts and villas and holidays and big bank balances and name and fame and power, influence and friendships and society. It will not be in any of these things. It will be in the remembrance of Allah. And so we come to a situation where there are those from the creation of Allah, there are those people who are alone when in company and in company when alone. In other words, the moving world around them, the swirling traffic around them, it doesn't affect their sense of contentment. And what we mean by this is their friendship and their consciousness and their conscience, their consciousness, their wakefulness, their hearts remembrance of the Almighty is so visceral and continuous in every state, standing, sitting on their sides, whether ill on a hospital bed or walking about and going to work, wherever their situation, wherever they be doing, their hearts are connected. And the consequence of this is when people are around them, at one level they're still alone, at one in their remembrance. And when they are alone, they're still in company. So they don't live and die for material things. And the consequence of this is the acquisition of material wealth, or the loss of it, does not take away their sense of value and their purpose of life. So we started with talking about cleaning agents, and we finish on the same note, that the cleaning agent of the heart is the remembrance of Allah. And when the heart is detoxified, when you do a detox, a spiritual detox, what does the Quran say? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى, he who purified himself, and this is purification we're talking about here, through dhikr of Allah. He who purified himself was successful, he succeeded. وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى, and then what happened? The purification led him to remembering Allah. The two are connected. He remembered Allah and he prayed, he performed salah as well. And what does Allah Ta'ala say in the next section? بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا, in fact, you give preference to the life of the dunya. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى, and the akhirah is better and more permanent. إِنَّ هَذَا لَفِي الصُّحُفِ الْأُولَى, this is what is mentioned in the previous scriptures, صُحُفِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَمُوسَى, the scriptures of Ibrahim and Musa, Abraham and Moses, عَلَيْهِمُ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ. So, to close then, let us increase, I have used this analogy before, I'll use it again, let us increase the frequency, the drip, when you're on a hospital bed and the blood sugar is low and you're falling into unconsciousness, and you're given a glucose drip to raise the energy levels, and you perk up, you become conscious, you come out of the coma and you start talking and you become perky and conversational. Well, the sweet sugar of the dhikr of Allah is the glucose of our hearts, and it's something we need to keep ourselves alive so our hearts don't wither and die. May Allah grant us tawfiq. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. ابھی میں نے ایک مثال دی ہے کہ جب مریض کی شوگر کم ہو جاتی ہے تو ایسا مریض جب شوگر بہت لو ہو جائے، بہت کم ہو جائے خون میں، تو ایسا مریض بے ہوش ہو جاتا ہے، اس کو ہوش نہیں رہتی، سکت نہیں رہتی، اور پھر اس کو ڈرپ لگائی جاتی ہے، اس کو گلوکوز کا انجیکشن دیا جاتا ہے، اس کو میٹھی چیز کھلائی جاتی ہے. تو وہ جو ڈرپ لگائی جاتی ہے، جو بوتل لگائی جاتی ہے گلوکوز کی، شوگر کی، خون کے اندر، تو اس کے قطرے دھیرے دھیرے خون میں جاتے رہتے ہیں، اور پھر جب خون کا گلوکوز لیول اوپر آتا ہے تو وہ بے ہوش مریض ہوش میں آ جاتا ہے، باتیں کرنے لگتا ہے، اس کی جان میں جان آ جاتی ہے، دم میں دم آ جاتا ہے. تو یہ مثال میں نے دی کہ اللہ کی یاد یہ ہمارے قلوب کے لیے گلوکوز ہے، ڈرپ ہے، اور اس سے ہمارے دل زندہ رہتے ہیں. قرآن کریم کی بہت ساری آیات اکثر زبانوں پہ مشہور ہیں اور مسلمان ان کا ترجمہ بھی جانتے ہیں. ان میں الا بذکر اللہ تطمئن القلوب، ایک یہ بھی آیت ہے کہ سنو، آگاہ ہو جاؤ کہ اللہ کی یاد سے دلوں کو اطمینان حاصل ہوتا ہے. اس کی دو تفسیریں ہیں. ایک تفسیر تو یہ ہے کہ ذکر اللہ کی جتنی بھی شکلیں ہیں، اللہ کو یاد کرنے سے دلوں کو اطمینان ملتا ہے. اس کی ایک تفسیر یہ بھی ہے، اور یہ معلوم ہونی چاہیے، کہ ذکر قرآن کا نام ہے، تو ذکر اللہ سے بعض مفسرین نے یہاں تلاوت مراد لیا ہے، قرآن کو پڑھنا یا سننا یا اس پر غور کرنا، اس سے دلوں کو اطمینان ملتا ہے. میں یہ بات اس لیے کہہ رہا ہوں کہ جو لوگ بے اطمینانی، بے چینی، پریشانی کا شکار ہوں تو وہ اس پر بھی عمل کریں. قرآن کریم کی تلاوت، اس کو کھول لیں اور تلاوت شروع کر دیں، اور جب تھوڑی تلاوت شروع کریں گے، وضو کیا، مصحف کو کھولا، یا اگر زبانی یاد ہے اس میں سے پڑھنا شروع کیا، تو جب تھوڑا سا پڑھیں گے تو پھر جی لگنا شروع ہو جائے گا، پھر تھوڑا زیادہ پڑھیں گے، پھر اس کا معمول بن جائے گا. جب معمول بن جائے گا تو پھر اس کی برکات بھی حاصل ہوں گی. تو یہ اللہ کا نام اور اللہ کے اسماء اور اللہ تعالیٰ کا کلام جو ہے، تو اس کو بن سمجھے پڑھیں تو بھی اس کی تاثیر ہے، اس کا ایک نور ہے اور اس کی ایک حلاوت ہے. بلکہ دارالبری کے شیخ الحدیث مولانا اسلام الحق صاحب رحمۃ اللہ علیہ، ان کا 95 میں رمضان المبارک میں، رمضان شریف میں مدینہ منورہ میں تہجد کے وقت وصال ہوا تھا، اور جس کرتے میں ان کا وصال ہوا اس کو واپس یہاں برطانیہ لایا گیا اور مدرسے کے طلباء کو دکھایا گیا، سب نے سونگا، اس میں خوشبو تھی اوپر سے نیچے تک. اب جب ہم اپنے کپڑوں میں خوشبو لگاتے ہیں تو ایک جگہ پہ لگاتے ہیں، ایسا تو نہیں ہوتا کہ آج کل اسپرے استعمال کرتے ہیں لوگ، تو وہ بھی پورے کپڑے پر تو نہیں ہوتی، ایک حصے میں کرتے ہیں، تھوڑی بہت کر دیتے ہیں، لیکن اوپر سے نیچے تک پورے کرتے میں ایک عود جیسی خوشبو تھی. ہم نے خود اس کو سونگا، ہمارے ساتھیوں نے سونگا، ہماری کلاس میں تقریباً 40 طلباء تھے، اساتذہ نے سونگا، دوسرے طلباء نے سونگا، گھر میں جو عیادت تعزیت کے لیے جاتے تھے وہ بھی ان کو بھی دکھایا جاتا. تو یہ کیا تھا؟ تو سہارنپور کے شیخ الحدیث شیخ یونس نور اللہ مرقدہ، انہوں نے فرمایا کہ جب انسان کثرت سے تلاوت کرتا ہے تو اس کی روح خوشبودار ہو جاتی ہے. تو جب روح بدن سے نکلتی ہے پھر اپنی خوشبو کبھی کبھی چھوڑ بھی جاتی ہے روح.